Watch and burn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I wanted to discuss quickly the Dead Kennedys' landmark 1981 album, I believe, and that is the incredibly short In God We Trust Incorporated. And the reason that I wanted to discuss this record was because of its impact on the American hardcore scene in the early 80s technically through now. I mean, its influence is still felt, much in the same way that the Misfits' Earth AD has had the same impact on the American hardcore scene and the American hardcore scenes since. Now, I know that the Dead Kennedys didn't end up hating this album the same way Danzig did with Earth AD, because I know that Danzig felt that all the songs essentially sounded the same, and he was never really the biggest fan of it. Now, personally, I love Earth AD. I thought that record was wild, and it was the craziest shit the Misfits ever released, and I loved it. And my favorite song by the Misfits is on there, and that's Day Amon Mia. But with the Dead Kennedys and God We Trust Incorporated, the exact same formula is put into play, and yet I do find this record to have more fun tossed in than the Misfits with Earth AD, whereas that record just kind of like puts the pedal down and doesn't let up. This record is incredibly fast and incredibly hard as well, but it kind of has that Dead Kennedys sense of swagger and satire at play, so that you can't help but fall in love with the groove. I mean, especially on tracks like Kepone Factory, We've Got a Bigger Problem Now, Hyperactive Child, and of course Nazi Punk's Fuck Off, which would go on to be like one of the biggest punk rock anthems ever recorded by any band anywhere. The lyrics to Nazi Punk's Fuck Off are so smart, and they're so on point, because I knew assholes like that back in high school. Now, most of them have probably grown out of it since, but it's not exactly the type of scene that you should just sort of float into and say, like, hey, check it out, I'm a neo-Nazi scumbag for a week, and then move on to something a little more relevant and purposeful. You don't want to be associated with that shit. And usually the people that are brain dead, and that's what this song is discussing, how in the real Fourth Reich, they would be the first to go unless they think. And that makes perfect sense, because that is exactly what would happen. The real Nazis are coaches, businessmen, and cops. And it's true, they are. But that was my favorite thing about this record, with songs like Moral Majority being on here, Religious Vomit, was the lyrical content is still dark and focused and incredibly smart and well-spoken and well-written and incredibly catchy, and the vocal patterns are fun, but the content is so heavy. With the Moral Majority attacking people like Jerry Falwell and Ronald Reagan, and how they're actually it was more like they were the moral minority technically, but the moral minority had a hell of a lot of money, so that their impact was felt far and wide, so that's why they were referred to as the moral majority, because they sort of used their cash and their political and corporate influence to spread their toxic sort of brand of American Christianity everywhere back then. And it really impacted bands like the Dead Kennedys, because they were on the moral majority's radar as being pornographic and satanic and whatever else. And I mean, the song Hell Nation that off of Frankenchrist was always cited by the religious right in the 80s as being one of the tracks that the Dead Kennedys wrote specifically to lead kids into the arms of Satan, even though that song was in fact written by their drummer Darren, and it was about how it felt growing up black in New Jersey. So it just goes to show you how stupid and incredibly small-minded the moral majority were back then, that they couldn't be bothered doing 5 seconds of research by way of reading the lyrics, and they would quickly find out that the song Hell Nation had absolutely nothing to do with Satan. But what do you expect from people like this, right? And that's what this record is sort of focused on. I've noticed it's a scathing look at the school system, the American political system, as well as the religious right going on in America at that point. And not to mention the fact that this record, like I said, is incredibly fun, and it's got a lot of there's a lot of harmony there, and there's a lot to keep going back to time and time again, despite the fact that the record is always only the better part of 13, 14 minutes long. This record never gets old, and it does come accompanied alongside Plastic Surgery Disasters, so that's kind of cool. You get 2 for 1 on the CD. I found, though, that when I was trying to pull the songs off my CD, that the song listings were all fucked up. Like, the song that it was listed, it was actually the song after it that you'd be pulling off. So that happened, at least with my copy of Plastic Surgery Disasters and In God We Trust Incorporated. But yeah, so look, I'm gonna go. My neck is starting to hurt. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while I discuss the Dead Kennedys' landmark 1981 album, I believe, In God We Trust, or EP rather, In God We Trust Incorporated. If you like this review, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. You guys kick ass, and I will see you soon. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.